4 in 10 people believe in ghosts. Over a third of people believe intelligent life exists outside of Earth. 43% of people believe demons exist. There are unexplained phenomena happening daily around the globe, and we are here to talk about it. Your portal into UFOs, paranormal, cryptids, the supernatural, the mysterious, the unknown. I see you. This is Beyond the Radar, and this is your host, Humanoid Tom Conway.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Radar, your paranormal news show. We are broadcasting live all over the world. You might be seeing us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Rumble, or Instagram, or you might be listening to us on the Oracle Talk Radio Network, playing exclusively on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, or Odyssey. Either way, we're glad to have you with us. If you want more, check out our archives over on SoundCloud, on the Oracle Talk Radio Network's station page. We have a wonderful episode for you today. Thank you so much for being a part, letting us be a part of your Wednesday night. This episode this week, we're going to talk about urban legends. Urban legends, the fascinating, eerie, and sometimes downright bizarre stories that have been passed down through generations with a hint of truth mixed in with a generous dose of imagination, but we love it anyway. These tales are woven into the fabric of American culture, reflecting the fears, hopes, mysteries, and different regions of the United States. From haunted roads of New Jersey to mysterious lights in the sky of Texas, urban legends captivate our curiosity and keep us looking over our shoulders. You've heard of popular ones like Mothman and Jersey Devil, but have you heard of Vanishing Hitchhiker, a Bell Witch, the Lizard Man of Scape or Swamp, the Gordon Light, the Qualpalick, Old Green Eyes, or the Elevator Game? Many different ones that are happening all over the United States, and I have a special guest to help talk about that with us. It's our very own intern, Haley Sullivan. She's a wonderful intern, has done a wonderful job for us, and we love her love for all of the things creepy and paranormal and all that kind of good stuff. So, without further ado, let's bring on Haley. Haley, welcome to Beyond the Radar. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, very well. So, I've known you for a little bit now, but this is the first time you're on Beyond the Radar on this side of it. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your love for this, what you like about the paranormal, and a little bit about yourself?
So, I like all things paranormal, basically. I grew up super like Christian and everything, so my
Okay.
grandparents and everything were like super against it, which basically like drove me more into wanting to learn about all things paranormal. Um, Currently, I am studying audio and music production. And during the summer, I worked with you guys, being able to promote Beyond the Radar and help with the social media and everything behind it and edit different things. And I like that I'm able to listen to a podcast where we can just delve into all the different types of paranormal stuff, because some of the stuff you guys have brought up, I haven't even heard about until listening to Beyond the Radar. So it's really interesting, and I'm glad to be a part of this and just be able to learn more about the paranormal.
Excellent, and thank you. And yes, you're right, because we all have, and kind of a little bit like urban legends, different parts of the United States have different parts of lore, of history, and that's just because of the different times and different people that have inhabited those places over the centuries. So everybody has their own stories and different things, and of course, like when I got involved into the paranormal, yeah, you're right. There's like you're smacked in the face with all these different things. You know what I mean? Because you generally don't listen to the stuff that you already know about. and then you are hit with all the stuff you don't know about, so the stuff you do know about,
Yeah.
kind of gets pushed back. But it's definitely wonderful, and I really, appreciate all the hard work you've done and spent time on this. And it's funny you mentioned, how it kind of, like, it wasn't talked about really, you know what I mean? And it was bad, when you were growing up. If you remember, with Nina, I guess that was on a couple weeks ago or so, she said the same, very similar thing, that it was, her grandparents and things like that, or her grandmother specifically, didn't want to have that stuff in the house, but it made them want it even more. And I know you remember that one. So it's funny that you have that similarity, you know what I mean? And yeah, you're right. We're not just one. We only talk about UFOs, or we only talk about this. You know what I mean? There's so many great stories out there. Let's not, you know, label ourselves or limit ourselves to only one of them. Well, since you're new on the show, I have to ask you, and it's totally fine if not, but did you have your own paranormal experience at all in your life?
So really weird. When I was, I'm gonna say probably around like 6 or 7,
Okay.
I would like randomly be woken up at night and I'd look in the corner and see like this old man like walking towards
Oh,
me.
wow.
It was really weird. It happened a few times. And so basically I was like terrified. So I told my grandparents and they were basically like, you didn't see anything. It's not real. Like there's nothing to be afraid of or anything. And then the other thing I had happen was my uncle passed away back when I was 8,
Okay.
and after he passed away, he still, like, would roam around our house and everything, and we would know because no one in our house smoked, but he did while he was alive, and
Hmm.
so anytime he was there, we would smell, cigarette smoke, like, the secondhand smoke from, like, cigarettes.
Yeah.
So he, like, was around for basically, like, a year after he died, and so every time we smelled cigarette smoke, we would know it was him.
Oh, it's like a calling card or something that he has, a
Mhm.
little card. That's thank you for sharing that on the show. And
Yeah, of course.
the 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 smell one is particularly interesting because that's something that's not talked about a lot. You know what I mean? But smells are energy. You know what I mean? You're smelling
Mhm.
the residuals of something. The same as light is energy, the same as, apparitions and things like that, orbs, whatever you call them. But we don't talk about smells enough, and and that just reminded me of something because my dad, when he was alive, he lived in a house down in Oxford, Pennsylvania, and he lived by himself. Parents were divorced, everything was good, but they were separated, and now he's a guy, worked in a manufacturing plant, like a guy's guy, right?
Mhm.
He would, not tell me and my brother when we were younger. This was like 11, 12, something like that. For me, and my brother was younger, like 8, 9. So he would tell us, he wouldn't tell us, but I would overhear him because as a 10, 11, 12 year old, you always want to listen into the grown-ups, right? You always want to
Oh,
listen into
yeah.
that
Yeah.
stuff. So I would hear him, at like family dinners or whatever, get together, whatever it was, talk about. He's like, yeah, it happened again, and for a while it didn't bother me. I didn't even think about it. But what he was mentioning was, um, after my grandmother had passed away, he would smell roses in the house. That was her favorite flower, and it was my mother's mother, so it wasn't his mother, but very close, Italian, Catholic, all that kind of good stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, he would smell that for, it was at least 2 years after she had passed that he would smell that in the house, and he wasn't sure if it was because of her, because he said before she passed away, he would smell it there too. And, other people chalked up, he chalked it, he's like, "Well, I do live in the woods and all of that." But roses don't grow in the woods. You know what I mean? If he
Yeah.
was smelling other, a mossy type plant or whatever, you know what I mean? You can chalk that up to living, but roses are that's a dedicated process to grow them, and they have a specific smell. There's not other things that smell like it. That's why they're roses. So,
Yeah.
it just reminded me of that wonderful story that he would tell when he talked about it because, not many people will bring up the smell because it's almost it's overlooked, and it's not as like in your face as an apparition, right? You see a goat
Yeah.
like you saw the elderly old man. That's something you could see. You know what I mean? That's more impactful on you than a smell would be. But I'm glad you mentioned it because it's definitely something that is paranormal and more people should talk about it. You know what I mean? We hear the
Hmm.
EVPs, that's your ears. Apparitions are eyes, but not many people talk about the smells. So very, very good. Um, but yes, this episode is on urban legends, and I love it. I love it
Hmm.
because this is part of what you love about it too, is many different areas, different people, different things. I haven't heard of some of the stuff you were talking about in terms of urban legends, and doing my own research, there's at least like 10 per state that that
Oh yeah, there's a
are
lot of
all
them.
around. You could read for days on getting urban legends. So, I'm very excited to dive into this topic. And yeah, without further ado, let's go with the first one. What do you got?
All right. So the first one that I want to look over is the chupacabra,
Hmm.
which I feel is something that a lot of people have heard of, which is why I want to basically cover it first because it's the
Yeah,
first urban legend that I pretty much was introduced to as a kid.
really,
Um,
that one
we,
was
yeah.
not
So,
Bigfoot or
oh, that's a good point. I forgot about Bigfoot.
okay. No, I would have been really impressed that you learned about chupacabra before Bigfoot. That would not many people have done that, but yeah, absolutely. No, you're right. It is, it is a great one to have. But yeah, let's hear about it.
Okay. So, uh, when I was around 9, I, watched a documentary that was randomly on the TV one time that was talking about, um, the chupacabra.
Hmm.
Uh, so to get into that more, the first ever chupacabra sighting/report first happened in 1995. So it's more, like, fairly recent.
Hmm.
The first sighting, originated in Puerto Rico, the United States, and Mexico.
Hmm.
Um, Chupacabra, broken down, is a Spanish word, which ends up translating to goat sucker. Depending on where you get your information from, you have two different depictions of a chupacabra. So within the United States, it's depicted as a dog-like creature, but in Puerto Rico, the chupacabra is depicted as an alien reptile type creature.
Hmm.
So most of the sightings that people have reported have been disregarded over time, mainly because the authorities and different people that looked into it told them that it was a dog that had mange. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, so yeah, the story, right, is that it's a dog with mange, right, and we've heard that that's what it's been
Hmm.
tried to be, labeled as. But as we know, it doesn't matter if a dog has mange or not, it doesn't suck blood. So,
Yeah, exactly.
and the goat sucker part, that one at least originated down in Puerto Rico, I know that, and this I'm
Hmm.
dating myself here, but I remember watching this on Unsolved Mysteries back when it first came out, and, quick shout out for that, another new season's dropping in October of Unsolved Mysteries, so watch that because I love that. But anyway, enough about their show. I should probably talk about mine. I remember watching it down, and it was terrifying because now for me, and it's probably a lot of people. I'm not going to say it's just me, but the thing that stuck out the most to me was the glowing red eyes and the depictions that you would see. That it had glowing red eyes, whether it glue or when you flash the light like a cat. You know what I mean? You see the reflection of the
Yeah.
eyes. Either way, that's terrifying. If it's red, either way, I'm sorry, it's just terrifying. So having that and it being, if it's a goat sucker, right, and sucks blood, and they showed like mutilations of animals of something that could do that. One, it wasn't a little guy, and two, um, it obviously a carnivore. So does it know
Mhm.
us from animals? You know what I mean? Like, what does it hunt? Is it just hunting everything? And we all know Puerto Rico is an island, so how could this thing have survived there without anybody seeing it? At least with us, you know what I mean, having much more land, obviously, and not being an island, it could have came across some other way. You know what I mean? Migration, whatever it might be. Well, having it go there and be there, it's been, it was very terrifying for me at first. That was probably the first cryptid that I learned about that I actually was scared of, and it just hit right. You know what I mean? You're learning about it at 9, 10. You know what I mean? When it actually
Mhm.
happened, at my age at least, and going going on and going back and forth with is it real? Is it not real? And then you hear, okay, it's not just there; it's actually in Mexico. Well, it can't swim. So are we just learning? Or are they coming out now? You know what I mean? Has deforestation gotten to the
Mhm.
point where some of these things are interacting with us? Then you hear about it in Texas and it starts to be a little more creepy. And then you hear about Arizona and you hear all of that kind of stuff. And then the world of cameras, right, come in where people have cell phones and cameras and all that kind of stuff. And what they take a picture of, you're like, okay, that does look like a dog with mange. You know what I mean? But you can
Mhm.
have a dog with mange and you can have this creature at the same time. Both can be true. So the fact that it, didn't hunt really, it sucked blood, and that's what it ate. That's a whole new level of scary, at least for me, for younger Tom, and the red eyes and how it was depicted. Um, and it's just getting back to that unsolved mysteries one. They told a story about a woman who had saw this thing, and again, so this is 90s, and this is not no camera phones or anything like that. And when she saw it, she was fixing a flat tire. So she was in Puerto Rico. She was fixing a flat tire, and she said she just heard something near her in the bushes. As she was kneeled down, taking the tire off, and she looked, and it rose up on two hind legs with glowing red eyes. And she said, "I was scared to death." So she took the crowbar, and threw it, and it ran off like it scared it. But when you're fixing a tire and it's the night and it's the 90s and there's not, and you're in Puerto Rico, that is terrifying. My God.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, what would you do if you came across that?
I would try and hide as fast as I could because it'd be terrifying just to see, like, this thing standing on 2 legs with glowing eyes. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know what I would do.
Well, I mean,
That's
you have a
just
car, right? So maybe
yeah.
I don't know. It depends on your um reaction. Your panic reaction, right? Because I'd be smart enough to just hop in the car and slam the door and lock it. I don't know. Being in that moment, I don't know if I would actually
Mhm.
do it, but I would think like now that's what I should do. I don't know if I would be able to do it. It'd be very terrifying. Um, so Chupacabra, man, he, we don't hear about them as often anymore. It was I guess we can call it viral, right? We didn't know what viral was
Yeah.
back in the 90s because we didn't have that then. But I guess it went viral in the mid to late 90s. And then typical viral trends, it kind of faded off after a little bit, getting more and
Mhm.
more. But I do love a good chupacabra story. And, some of the mutilation pictures or some of the sucking of the blood pictures, it does look like, two now obviously you can fake everything, I get that. But it does look like two fangs, you know, and the way the fangs are apart, the head would have to be like that big. If the head's that big, the body has to be, maybe 3, 4 feet. Which doesn't seem big to us, but I mean, look, a 2 foot dog can kill you. So, I'm sure this thing could too. Um,
Mhm.
but no, wonderful. I'm glad that was your real introduction into cryptids. So thank you for that one.
Yeah. Alright. So the next one that I want to talk about is the elevator game, which is another one that a lot of
I have
people
never
I
heard of this
feel
one, so
know
I'm
about.
excited.
Oh, really?
Never have.
Okay. So the elevator game is a game that is supposed to take you to another world or dimension, similar to ours, but also different. So this originated in Korea and Japan. The earliest date of this occurring that's recorded was in 2011, which is even more recent than Chupacabras. Some
Wow.
people speculate that this is what killed Elisa Lam. Do you know who that is?
No.
Okay,
Elisa
have you
Lam?
ever heard? Yeah, she was, I believe she's a girl from the Cecil Hotel. I believe that's in California.
Okay.
So she was in the Cecil Hotel staying there, and everyone watched her get into the elevator, like it's on camera and everything. And like she never got off the elevator.
What?
And people, yeah, it is crazy. But people were reporting that their water was like changing brown and had like a really weird taste to it and everything. And so the maintenance guys went up to the roof to check the water tanks and everything, and her body was found in there.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
man, you're
crazy.
talking about wormhole. That's the worst wormhole you
Oh,
ever had to go
oh
out one
yeah.
way and so so they have her on camera, right?
Mhm.
Getting into the elevator. And I'm
Mhm.
sure they have line of sight cameras all the way down hallways and things like that.
Yeah.
So you have all of that, and they never caught her getting off of it.
Yeah.
And then how long? Did it say how long, like, before they went and checked the tank?
I think it was at least a week.
Okay, so it didn't just happen.
Yeah.
Could somebody have been in that elevator that, popped the top open?
I mean, it's possible. Like, there's so many different conspiracy theories behind all of that,
That is so odd,
but
but that is such a wonderful one. Oh, man. So,
oh, yeah.
what was what was the urban legend of that again? That she went to a different dimension, or it just popped her out into the tank and she drowned?
So, most people think that it took her to another dimension, just, like, as similar to ours, and they believe that's why she wasn't seen on the footage. So they think that she attempted to play the elevator game, which didn't end up resulting good for her.
Okay, and how do you play that game?
Okay, so there's a bunch of different steps to go into it, but the
Okay,
first step is to get into an elevator either alone or with another person. Once you step into the elevator, you're not allowed to enter, sorry, no one's allowed to enter and no one's allowed to leave. So you're stuck in there pretty much. So the
okay,
next thing is that you then have to ride the elevator uh, up to different floors and down to different floors in the following order. So you want to start on floor one.
okay,
Once you're on floor one, you want to then proceed up to the fourth floor, down to the second floor, back up to the sixth floor, down to the second floor again, up to the 10th floor, and then the last floor you want to go to for this step is the fifth floor. So a bunch of different floors that you have to go through.
yeah.
But
And so
they
what does
ask,
that open up?
uh, well, the first thing is that when you approach the fifth floor, there's a chance that there will be a woman there. And they basically say that you're not allowed to speak to her or look at her, or there's a chance that you might not be able to return to the real world, which is the consequence of pretty much talking to the lady.
Okay, and so this is probably what that woman did was talk to her, and she found out that you were not supposed to talk to her and was killed and put in there. But you said this was 2011, right?
Yes.
So there hasn't been any like arrests made or any evidence that it was like murder or anything like that?
I don't believe so. I think it was just that they just think it was probably like suicide.
I
So
see. No, I'm imagining the roof didn't have cameras.
No, it didn't. It was actually, I believe it was locked, so there wasn't any technical way for you to be able to get up there without, like, having to pick through a bunch of locks and stuff.
So you would
But
need like the maintenance worker keys or stuff.
yep.
Wow. So, um, and obviously she was alone, right? When she got in the elevator, she
Mhm.
didn't have that other person with her. That's fascinating. I mean, it has all the elements of a true urban legend story, doesn't it? It has
Mhm.
somebody trying some kind of cursed spell type thing out, following this set of ritual rules and all of that, it not working out for them. And the discovery adds more to the mystery than more to the discovery or the solution. It adds more to the
Mhm.
mystery. If they found her on top of, like, say somebody popped a panel out and she was up on top, right? They found her, but that doesn't add more to the mystery. You know what I mean? The fact that she got behind a locked door and into a water tank, which
Mhm.
I'm assuming there's only one way open for that. That's why it's a tank. So the
Yep,
fact
you
that
have
she got
to
go ahead.
there's a ladder on the side of it, so the only way to, like, get in there is to climb up the ladder and open the tank.
Yeah. And
So,
then go in and who knows if the opening was even big enough for somebody to fall in. So you have all of these mysteries. Again, all of these things that happen on there are crucial, in telling a good urban legend story. You need to have the intrigue, you need to have the mystery. Sad to say, you don't want to even die, but you need to have some sort of malicious thing happen for it to have staying power as an urban legend. So I think that's wonderful. That's a great creepy story, and it reminds me of the one. And I'm going to butcher this, and to whoever's listening out there, this is a funny analogy because this is as close as you'll feel like to a ghost. Is when a radio show host or a podcast host can't remember the name or something, and you know it, and you're saying it, and I'm here struggling like, oh, what was it? What was it? Because I can't hear you. Right? It's the closest you'll ever get to that, and I've suffered through that a lot when listening to other shows. But there was a guy, and I believe it was Ohio, and it was a college student who went into a bar, never left the bar, and nobody knows where he is. I don't know if you ever heard of that one, but he went into a college bar. They have cameras outside the bar. They have cameras around all of the exits of the bar. They have cameras inside of the bar. And for whatever reason, they won't. People can check the footage, but you can't find what happened to him. He disappeared into a, like, corner or so of the bar that the camera didn't reach. But every single door that led out, and I believe there's 3 of them, had a camera right there. And they reviewed the footage and said, "Okay, yeah, that's him. He went in there." And you have nothing of him going out. And the police closed the bar down the next day, looking through everything. Maybe he fell, hit his head, he was drunk, or got in a fight and somebody stuffed him in a closet, whatever. And they kept looking and looking, and they couldn't find him. And, I do a lot of Reddit rabbit holes, but it's been very popularized on Reddit with different theories, different, explanations of what could have happened. But it's one of the greatest, like, mysteries in recent time because nobody knows what happened to this poor guy. They have you going in a place and they don't have you coming out. And if they found him somewhere else, say he foul play, all that kind of stuff. If they found him somewhere else, you have that clip. They don't even have that. They have no idea what happened to this guy. So please check that out, everybody, and make sure to comment what that poor guy's name is. I feel bad. I can't think of it right now, but it definitely reminds me of that one where, you have the evidence of one thing and there's none of the second half of it.
was his name by any chance Brian Schaefer?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a great
Yeah.
job. Yeah. Yeah. But he has that is a phenomenal story, and they don't have anything like that. People are talking, you know, the most extravagant ideas, cartels, chopped up and put in like bags and taken out. thrown out with the trash, all kinds of stuff like that, but no evidence of anything. They actually tested the trash idea by going to the landfill, and there was no human remains. You know what I mean? You bring cadaver dogs and whatever else you can find, but there was nothing. It was fascinating. So
That's
great elevator
crazy.
game. I definitely learned something.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All right. So the last one that I wanted to talk about is called Old Green Eyes. So Old Green Eyes is a North American ghoul-like creature reported to have been sighted among the corpse of American Civil War people. According to paranormal scholars, the Battle of Chickamauga, which was fought on the 19th and 20th of September 1863 near Snodgrass Hill on the Tennessee-Georgia border, which was one of the bloodiest battles of the American Civil War, second to the Battle of Gettysburg. So it is said that so much blood was spilled on the battlefield that a creature of great malice was drawn to the devastation. The beast with green eyes, glowing eyes, is claimed to have haunted the land long before the arrival of the Civil War. But after the battle, some reported seeing such a creature moving among the corpse near Snodgrass Hill. Such reports allegedly describe the monster as being human-like with eerie green eyes and a huge deformed jaw from which terrifying fangs protruded. In the century after the Civil War, visitors and rangers at the national park have reported encounters with the same green-eyed creature. Some say that the entity is a ghost of long-dead warriors. Others say that it's something else, something inhuman. So that's Old Green Eyes.
Old Green Eyes. Now, this one makes a lot of sense to me because in speaking with a lot of people, doing the show and the podcasting travels and all of that, I've heard, I guess they would be theories, the theories of trauma on the land, where when you have terrible car accidents, terrible murders, or a battlefield, which is exactly what this is, it tends to draw in low vibrational negative energy. And it does that because one, according to theory, believes that they feed or they get power off of the sorrow, suffering, pain, anguish, you name it. Every kind of thing is happening on the battlefield in that realm, right? So it stands to reason that if that theory is true, a physical manifestation of that energy is possible because with as much blood that's shed, with as much pain, sorrow, anguish, hurt, anger, all of that kind of stuff, you're going to have a plethora of that emotion to feed and sustain energy. If that happens, it's not impossible to have manifest in that area. When you have apparitions, those are just manifestations of the energy that's harnessing the soul, the spirit is harnessing. If you believe in it on one good way, you probably need to believe in it on the bad way. And this is what that would be. So to have an inhuman creature, which probably would be on the demonic side, if not a demon, then close to it, manifest in that area where all that bloodshed was spilled, it's going to stay around that area because the land holds trauma. I've heard that land holds trauma in ancient, native burial sites and things like that. We always hear that. We always hear, oh, this was built on an Indian burial ground, right? That's like a niche and a common theme, right? In all of horror stories, horror movies, scary story, whatever you name it. Well, the reason isn't that dead Native Americans are there. It's because that's a traumatic land area where bad things happen there. So it's going to be stamped with a bad thing until it's remedied, until somebody or something clears all of that negativity out of there so the land can get back to being light energy, healthy, and all of that. A popular way to think about it is, you ever hear or you ever notice that when there's like there's like certain areas that always are prone to car accidents, and you just look at it and you're like, I don't really know why. You know what I mean? There's nothing terrible about it, but people always crash in certain spots. And That's a reasoning for that. That's why that is. If you're there and you manifested in that area, if you manifested your energy and your demonic, you want to keep eating. You know what I mean? Once you feed off things, you have to keep happening there. So it will do tricks because this is my area and I need to stay here and all of that. So I wonder since then if it presents itself and scares hikers, hunters, farmers, whoever's in that area, it's still feeding, right?
Oh yeah.
So unless something wants to take it on and clear or heal that energy, it's going to keep coming back. This is one of the reasons I believe cryptids aren't the majority of cryptids aren't, how do I put this without making, aren't flesh and blood things. They are spiritual in nature. They are energy based.
Mm.
Bigfoot assumes a physical form, but it's a forest spirit. A skinwalker assumes a physical, but it's a spirit. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Mhm.
So if you have that in one end, you know what I mean? You got to think that has something to do with it. If you believe in that theory, you have to believe that this has something to do with it there. Now, I will play devil's advocate and be like, okay, how come they're not all over the place? Because there's millions that have happened all across the history of the United States. Well, one thing you said in there was this was a particularly bloody one. If there might be a threshold it has to reach, which is sad to say, but the X amount of people must die before the energy becomes enough to summon something. Maybe that's it. Who knows? What, out of the demonic manifestations, does that make sense to you that the horror and the bloodshed could bring that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I do agree
So,
with that.
so, real quick, we have some other notable ones, and let me know if you heard of any of these. Have you heard of the Bell Witch?
I have not.
Not? That's in Adams, Tennessee, and it's a poltergeist legend, which is tormented the Bell family in the early 19th century. So this was supposed to be somebody that was cursed and a family that had physical harm and eerie disturbances, and sort of lived in that legend of like a curse taking over one of the family members and wanting them to do harm to somebody else. So that's another one that's local to Tennessee, and it just reminded me when you said that one there. Another one in the South is a Gordon light, and that is a floating light seen near railroad tracks. Some say it's Bell lightning. We've seen that video on TikTok of ball lightning floating around, going all over the place. But the urban legend behind it is that there was a horrific train crash there of two trains heading on, and the light was somebody who was holding the lantern, the conductor outside, to let them know that they have to switch tracks. They didn't switch tracks and they collided head on, and it was a massive amount of death. Again, that's all encapsulated because of the horrific nature of what was going on. So really scary stuff there. That one is more sad on the urban legend side than, I guess, scary, but it is still one technically. And the Qualupalik, and I know I said that wrong, but that's an Inuit legend. So this comes all the way from Alaska up north, and that's supposed to be a mermaid-like creature that's not good. Not Ariel. It's definitely not Ariel, but it's a mermaid-like creature that lures children into the water. Now, Alaska, you don't go in the water. You're going to die. It's very cold. Lures children into the water with a humming sound and takes her away, and takes the kids away in a baby pouch that they have. So a mermaid kangaroo that drowns kids. Awful. Awful. So that is scary.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
in the ideas of urban legends in the past, I wonder how many stories are around to help that were said to like keep people out of the woods. You know what I mean? And I wonder the history
Mhm.
of that, because if you said that to keep people out of the woods, you know what I mean? It's one thing to like your children and all of that, but we as humans, as people, we kind of need an enemy, right? We need something else out there. I wonder if that was a way to help people cope with different things that they were going through by if they're, some things just, and it's sad to say, but some things just happen for a reason and there's not anybody's blame
Mhm.
that can go around. But if you give a blame to something, maybe it makes you feel better. I wonder how many of these things can fall into that category. Very, very good stuff. Wonderful stuff on this. I thank you so much for coming on. Why don't you tell people about where they can find you and all of that fun stuff.
Well, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, just mainly those two. Just at Haley L. Sullivan on Instagram and then just my name on Facebook. But besides that, you can also find me on Beyond the Radar and Oracle Talk Radio Network and Chasing
Yes,
Prophecy. So
absolutely.
I'll be there
Oh,
too.
yep, absolutely. Oh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope you come back with more stories, and I hope we can go through all the kinds of cool stuff that make this a fun genre of what it is, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we've been Beyond the Radar, your paranormal news show here on the Oracle Talk Radio Network. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Everybody stay weird.